Hello! You are watching the Garden Corner Show. We are a show where we're crazy passionate about everything gardening. I am J-Dog, John Carstrom. I'm out here with Mr. Dave, and it's kind of a nice, quiet time. Would you say, Mr. Dave?
It is nice.
It is. It's quiet. There's no rain. There is very little wind. We are tucked away in a nice greenhouse, and we have our raised beds. Would you call this a raised bed?
I would.
Okay, a nice raised bed. What I like to do, well, should I do some shout outs? Let's do some shout outs. Yes. Let me take the shout outs from out of the soil and say hello to Bob Allworth. Bob, that is an amazing load of wildlife in your pickup. Oh my gosh. Tammy Basser. Layla Dudley is loving life. Carrie Patterson. Karen Marin. Karen, I hope your pots turned out. Let me know, of course, when you guys come in next. And Michelle Schaefer. So, hello guys. I hope you enjoy the show. So, we're talking about tomatoes. Now is the time. I'm officially going to plant the first tomato of, I can't say the first tomato of the season, but it's the first tomato for us of the season. So I want to go over step by step how we can raise a tomato to the best, so it's the best tomato that you've ever had. So now, first thing I'm going to do, number one, step one, is to treat your garden area with some lime. And I'm just going to buy a nice small bag of lime. Now, a bag of lime, 2.5 to 5 pounds, will cover about 100 square feet. So roughly 10 by 10. I have a 6 by 6 times 2, which is 6 times 6 is 36, times 2 is 72. Okay, enough of the math. So what I want to do is chicken feed this lime, and so I'm going to use 2.5 to 5 pounds over this whole bed here. Now I've got other things in this bed, but I've got other things. Now the reason why I want to do some limes, add some lime particularly to the bed for tomatoes, is because sometimes the story on tomatoes is you can grow the tomato and you're proud of it and it's blooming and you get excited and you start seeing the tomatoes and they're nice and green. Then you start salivating and you're thinking of recipes, how you're going to cook it, and you can't wait for the day that you're going to pluck it and eat it. But suddenly you start seeing this brown watery spot. Starts out kind of with a soft watery spot at the very tip of the tomato, and then it harden off and starts to rot. It starts to rot out right on the very bottom of the tomato, and that's called tomato blossom. Tomato blossom end rot. And part of the reason how that occurs is, one of the reasons is because there's not enough calcium in the soil. So I'm going to hit it with lime just to make sure. And by the way, when you apply lime, you can do it well in advance. You can do that in a month in advance. So if you haven't started planting your garden, you stop by, grab some lime, chicken feed it over, you're prepped and ready to go. So it need not have to be at the time that you're planting. As a matter of fact, it's a little bit better if you did that first before. So now we've got lime, you've mixed it into the soil. And by the way, on a raised bed, prepping the soil is a good thing. I have just potting soil in here, and really when we do a garden, we want to actually add some compost to it or some soil amendment. So let me open up a bag of the soil amendment. Now, of course, we use a Northwest vest because we're in the Northwest. So I want to add a little bit of this Northwest vest all around. It's a nice deep dark soil. It has a little bit of fruit compost in it. So it has a little bit more organic material. We want to mix that up. nice too, so in your soil. So you've got the lime, you've got a little compost, and we've got some potting soil. This is going to make for a great bed here. So now on this raised bed, I'm prepping this to do kind of our version of square foot gardening. So we're going to plot it out here. So I'm just going to use kind of a little bit larger than an actual square foot for this tomato. Now, picking out tomatoes, I'm not going to go over a whole lot about varieties of tomatoes because right now I don't have that many varieties. So I really want to show you some as the season progresses. So now the big thing about tomatoes, don't get confused, is there's a little bit of determinate and indeterminate, and that's just language, should I say. Determinate is that it'll get to a certain size, it'll produce the tomatoes, end of story. Indeterminate is when it'll just grow, produce. So it's kind of all throughout the season. Some varieties, I think Roma tomatoes is a determinate variety. I'm thinking that. And so it'll produce the tomatoes, boom, you pluck them, and then it's finished. So some of them are natural, like that. Now, a couple of ways to, one more thing to prep for the beds is to add in some. Now again, I've got to make sure that all essential nutrients are available. I'm using this Garden in Bloom. So what the neat thing about this is that it's OMRI listed. I'm looking for all organic. So I'm going to put a good cup full, and that's about 2 handfuls, and mix that in. Now this also has mycorrhizae in there, and the mycorrhizae, by the way, has to be in contact with the roots. So I'm going to dig the hole, mix that in there a bit. Now, a couple different ways to plant tomatoes. I'm just going to show you the technical part of it. So here I am going to choose this Sweet 100, which is just a regular, very, very standard cherry tomato. Now, a couple of different ways you can do that is, on a tomato, we always want to plant really, really deep. And so you see we have these extra leaves coming out, these little branches. And what I want to do is I want to cut these, and I'm going to cut these with a pair of pruners or a shears or a scissors, so it makes it a nice clean cut, so it doesn't introduce any fungus or any disease into it. So we've plucked those out. It's a nice clean cut. We're going to plant that very, very deep. A couple of different ways you can do that is you can actually go really deep like that and then just plant it straight up. So something like that. Oh, not too deep. So I want it to right at that soil level, but just so that the leaves come right out. So something like that, we can do it that way. Let me show you. So you see these guys? Now that stalk is going to get nice and thick from there. It's going to root out even more so. Another way we can do that is, let me show you. It's going to make another area here. Let me add my Garden in Bloom. I'm going to dig the hole. Now I'm going to go a little bit wider this time. So what we can do here, now this is a Heartland tomato, and this certainly looks like a determinate. I've got to take a look on this guy. So what we want to do is plant it sideways. So we're planting it sideways. Oops, completely forgot. Let's cut out these guys here. Okay, the extra stems here, so we can even go up as high as this guy here. So we're like this, and we're going to plant this sideways like this, and we're going to kink him right up. So something like that. Okay, and he's just kinked up. So that is another technique that we can do for planting. Tamp it down, give it a good watering, and away you go. So I think that's all we've got going on for the day. Does that sound like it's helpful? Except I hope that was helpful, because I just saw the quote of the day fly while you might have seen it flutter across the screen, but here is another quote, lest we're very prepared here. Anyway, here is the quote for the day, lest you didn't get anything from this, is don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. I'm going to pop that right there. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Thank you, Howard Thurn. That's the show for the day. Always remember, live your passion.
See me right.